Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 of SolidiTEA. My name is Marisa Maggio and I have the pleasure and honor of being here with
Christina Maggio, and today we're going to be talking about how your daily disciplines can essentially make or break your business.
Absolutely. And Christina, I think that that's a firm statement, but it does go a little bit deeper than that, right? Not only can they make or break your business, but they can really make or break kind of your day-to-day and your personal life as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I know that this is something that you've really ironed out, every single kink in your morning routine and in your daily discipline, so to say, to make sure that you're starting your morning on a positive note. Like you're not starting your morning off not feeling thankful or not full of gratitude. You're starting your morning off in a positive light and with actual intentions of what's going to be done that day, right? And that's really important. So of course, over time, I'm sure that there's going to be different disciplines that you have to incorporate, right?
Absolutely.
I know that that's the case for myself. And is it always easy? No, not for me anyways. However, do we have to make it happen? Yeah, we do, right? So with that being said, Christina, talk to me a little bit about your morning routine and essentially those daily disciplines that for you are completely just like non-negotiable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. It wasn't always like that. At this point, it has to be like that. So I'm able to get done what I want to get done for myself prior to starting my day, if you will. So I wake up at 5 a.m. I say a prayer or a couple of gratitude prayers, drink some water. I think that drinking water is really vital. It's vital that it's one of the first things you do when you wake up, because when you're sleeping, your body essentially dehydrates. So if you're not drinking at least a glass of water when you wake up, I highly recommend that you start now. But yeah, I say some gratitude prayers, I drink water, and then I immediately go and work out. So I'm working out for like 45 minutes, an hour, give or take, stretching after that, meditating a bit. And then essentially I'm just starting my day and getting to the office as soon as I can.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think it's really important about, what you're doing when you wake up essentially is always going to lay that foundation of what's usually going to happen that day or how you're going to at least take it in, right? So when you're waking up and when you say, you're waking up with gratitude, correct me if I'm wrong on this, it doesn't have to be anything big. Like, you're not waking up saying like, I'm so thankful that, I made $1 million yesterday. Like that's not what you're saying, right? So dive a little bit deeper on like how simple that can be and how it actually makes you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really important to start your day on a positive note, like you mentioned. And I think one of the first, by essentially, just thinking about things that I'm grateful for before I even, like, my feet even hit the ground allows me, no matter what's going on, to really realize that it could always be worse, and I'm truly so blessed. So it's usually just something really simple, like thank you for this day, thank you for this amazing life, thank you for this water. Something very simple like that. I'll just say a couple of gratitude prayers. I do also journal. So I get a little bit deeper while I'm actually journaling as far as like things that I'm grateful for, who I am, whatever it may be. I get a little bit deeper there. But initially when I wake up, it's just something to keep my mind positive and just remind myself, no matter what is or isn't going on that day or in my life currently, just to kind of bring me back down to earth and say, hey, it could always be worse. Like,
right. We live in the United States where we have running water and, you have food on your table.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. So I think that that's huge. And it just shows like the smallest ounce of gratitude. You can't be, negative and grateful at the same time.
100%.
And I think that that's so true. And you always show that, by the way. It's
Thank
like, you really can't be negative and grateful at the same time. So, what are some of the things that really kind of, I guess, really pumped you up to say, okay, I need to have a morning routine? Like if I don't, maybe these might be the consequences.
I think just more so knowing that if I don't do these things in the morning, like if I don't work out, if I don't journal, if I don't drink every morning. I drink a half gallon of water before I touch anything else, right? So if I don't do those things, I just know I feel off. Like I don't feel like I'm the best version of me. And then that essentially just escalates or turns over into other parts of my life. Like if I'm not feeling like I'm the best me, I can't help agents to the extent that I want to help them that day. And like that shouldn't fall on them because I fell short that morning. You know what I mean? So I think once I kind of took myself out of it and said, hey, you have to do these things. Like I don't always enjoy waking up at 5 a.m. I don't always enjoy working out at, 5:45 in the morning. But I know if I don't do it, I'm going to feel worse later in the day. And then that's going to just impact other areas of my life. So it's like, it has to be done.
Absolutely. So it's almost gratification as well, but like because you're getting done the things that you feel you need to get done, right? Before you're actually starting your work day. And when you can start your work day on a positive note, it looks a lot better usually than if you started on a negative note.
100%.
No one wants to walk into the office and everybody's, upset. That's not a good environment. It's not a thriving environment, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, you talked a lot about water, which as your sister, I know is very important to you. Who's more hydrated? Definitely her every time. However, I think it also shows that you have a level of accountability, right? And not only to yourself, which is very important, but you have a level of accountability to everybody around you and to the agents that you're talking to. And that's what almost shapes your disciplines, right? Like you said, you don't want to let, Agent John Smith down because you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be fair. That's not what you promised, John, right? So with that being said, those disciplines in the morning of waking up, gratitude, journaling, working out, getting just ready for the day and being in that state of positivity, if you will, again, it's going to bring you to the office in a positive place. And, coming to the office, you always have like a list of things that you're going to get done that day. Like come hell or high water, like they're getting done. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When do you plan those things and why do you do it that way?
Yeah. So every Saturday or Sunday I sit down and I kind of plan out my week. So anything I know, like a meeting, a Zoom call, whatever it may be, that's all in my planner, right? If you don't have a day minder planner that's incremented every 15 minutes, you should absolutely get one because it's literally life-changing. I've used it for years now, and it just allows me to be more structured and definitely achieve what I need to on a day-to-day basis. But essentially, so I plan my week out or what I know of my week, typically the week before, or the Saturday or Sunday before. And then the night before, I'll go through what I need to achieve the next day. And I'll put everything in order of importance. So like, hey, these 3 things need to be achieved first, and then trickle down later into my day. But I'm telling you, I don't think there's any better feeling than highlighting your day minder and the tasks that are in there and just feeling like you've completed what you had to for that day.
And that's huge because it's actually psychological. As
100%.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I know that there's times I make I have a list and there's something I already did, right? It will be like, reach out to John Smith. Mm-hmm. And like, I just reached out to John Smith, but now I put it on the list so I can cross it off, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that feeling of like accomplishment. And that's what you're feeling throughout the day. Like I got all these things done right from the morning, right? Like I drank my water. I know what I'm thankful for. I can't be negative and grateful at the same time, right? I worked out, I journaled, right? You did things to fill yourself up so you can be the best version of yourself, again, for anybody that you're going to have to be speaking with that day.
Absolutely.
So I love that. So it carries out, and you mentioned that you plan your week out a week in advance, right?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
Which is awesome because we have reoccurring calls. So it's like those
Trainings,
are non-negotiables.
Yeah,
right?
all that goes in the planner for sure. The T&L, team call, all that good stuff. Yeah,
for sure. And even like, okay, like the T&L, the AMS, like, you've been in the industry for 6 years, going on 7, maybe
going on 7.
And like, you still tune into the T&L, right?
Yeah, I love
because
the
you
T&L.
still learn every single week from the T&L. As
we have
do
the
I.
best training. Yeah, we have the best training in the industry.
Absolutely. So it's like, why wouldn't we take advantage of it? So I love that. And then the night before, because our business can be so day to day at certain times or certain points or areas, you're mapping out exactly what you have to do kind of the night before to know, okay, in the morning, this has to be done. And we've all read it in books or heard it before. It's like you always want to get those most tedious things out of the way.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like a peace of mind. Like for me, like a tedious thing, it's like working out. If I don't work out in the morning, it ain't happening. Like, don't count on me there, Chief,
That's why I work out in the morning.
So it's, it's getting that most tedious, maybe personal task off the plate, right? You've now inspired me to drink a glass of water in the morning, not a gallon, but we're getting there, right? So my point is those are tedious to me, right? So some of the things that might be tedious to you or to anybody else listening, they might be different. But being able to get those things done after you're already in the right mind place is going to help you out a lot, right? Like tremendously, because those first 3 hours or so of the day, those are yours, right? Like no one's calling you at 5:30 in the morning. Maybe at like 1:30 because they live in California. We love you guys, by the way. But no one's calling you at 5:30 in the morning, typically.
Yeah,
like
typically my phone's pretty quiet till at least like 7 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say 7, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you that little bit of space, but also the clarity of knowing, hey, this needs to be accomplished tomorrow. So I'm going to be really intentional with my time blocks. Like you said, the day minder, every 15 minutes, boom, this is what's happening, right? So I love that. And the outcome of your daily disciplines is really essentially what makes them non-negotiable, right? Like you said, I don't feel right if I wake up and, it's not 5 a.m. If you woke up at 9 a.m., you'd have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah,
like,
that would not be a good day.
I could probably speak to that.
That'd be really strange.
Right, because you'd be like, I lost, more than half the day. Now you're panicking. You're behind the 8 ball. You didn't work out. You can barely drink your water. Like, but really though, right? There's a lot going on, right?
Absolutely.
So it's the power of that. That really is like what comes out of it, right? Like, so what comes out of it is you feeling better about yourself. So being able to go into a day and feeling like you already have some wins under your belt, that is a win, right?
Oh yeah. And I think, to kind of touch on that a little bit, I think that if you want to implement a discipline into your life, it may not feel good initially. Like it may really suck and it may seem very tedious, but the more you do it, it's going to become just that. It's going to become habit. It's going to become a daily discipline. And before you know it, it's going to be normal to you. It's not going to feel tedious. You're not going to hate it. You're not going to, want to sleep until 9 a.m. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I don't know the last time I slept. Probably past like 7. And if I was sleeping at 7, it was probably because I fell asleep at like 2 a.m.
Right.
Like I can't even, I'm just like, at this point, I can't even like physically do it. Yeah.
It's a real habit. Exactly. So it's like when a daily discipline can become a habit, there's power in habit.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. It's life-changing.
Exactly. Because now you actually really did make literal changes, right, to your lifestyle to make sure that these daily disciplines are going to form habits that are good habits that are going to propel me up versus bring you down.
100%. And I think I've just implemented a lot of habits throughout my whole day. Like my morning routine, absolutely. That's kind of been a regular thing for me. For probably at least like a year and a half, 2 years now, as far as like working out, waking up at 5 a.m., all that goes. But even just in like my day to day, like I've cut a lot of toxic people, if you will, out, just a lot of toxic like behavior and activity out. And I think I had to, if not, I wouldn't be able to be so positive in my day-to-day life if I hadn't. Like I'm always listening to something positive. I'm always listening to Audible, podcasts, training, like whatever it may be, just something that's filling my mind with positivity. And I just make sure that I surround myself with people that are positive as well, whether they're in the industry or that's my friends, family, whoever it may be. There's just a certain mind state I'm trying to maintain. And if you're not helping me, essentially
move over.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Like I can't be surrounded with any negativity at this point in my life. So I think that's another thing that I've implemented and I'm really strict on, if you will. as far as who I surround myself with and whatnot at this point in my life.
Absolutely. I think that that's something both, you and I have had to kind of take a step back with different people and at different points of just like, okay, is this serving me or is this like, is it draining me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is this person helping me fill my cup or are they doing the complete opposite? And every time I talk to them, it just feels awful.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that, because I don't know that I always was. Like, sometimes I would be like, oh, it must have been me. Or I wouldn't even think about it. I would just be like, oh, well, they're having a bad day. I'm moving on. Meanwhile, I don't realize it's impacted my day. So I think that that's two big things you just said. One was essentially when you're forming the habit, it isn't going to feel good. Right?
Yeah.
But when you're doing it, it is. And then also just your environment is going to dictate your behavior. We always talk about this, but at the same time, your environment is also the people that you surround yourself with.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that being able to take a step back and saying, what can I control on my own personal premise, if you will, but then who else has any kind of power or impact on my thought process? And anybody who that's not jiving with what you're going for, unfortunately, right now, it's going to be a limited conversation or it's going to be not right now. I can't do that, right?
Yeah, Michelle said this to me one time when we were talking. And if you don't know, Michelle works with Paul McLean and the whole West Coast team. She's amazing. Super positive.
Shout out to Michelle.
Yeah, shout out to Michelle, right? And we were talking about something and Michelle said, that's okay. Like, they're just not in season right now. And it's like, I always took that with me. Like, it's okay. Like, just move on. Like, they're just not in season right now. And it's so true. Like, they're just not someone that you're supposed to be surrounding yourself with right now because they're not bringing any positivity to your life, It's
like, not your time.
Yeah, exactly. So I really love that. And I've taken that into a lot of relationships now with me, whether it's, for whatever type of relationship it is. And I think also even dealing with agents, it can get tough because a lot of times like agents will call you and they'll be discouraged and they'll be negative. And it's like, you can't feed into that negativity with them. Like you sometimes like you have to level with an agent, but it's not so much, you don't want to necessarily say, hey, you're right. Like the leads do suck. Like the leads don't suck. Like,
you suck.
Yeah, to be honest, like you didn't work the leads. Like they don't work if you don't work them. So it's like you almost have to point things out like that to agents. If they're calling you with negativity at all, like, hey, like I heard Trey say something along the lines of one time, and I was actually telling you this the other day. Basically, like if a new agent is calling you and giving you, a hard time to the point you don't even want to answer your phone, you just got to say, hey, Jack, we're just getting to know each other right now. And I don't want to answer your phone calls and I don't want our relationship to be like that. So basically like, we got to change something. You know what I mean? Like, what are you struggling with? How can we get you where you want to be? Right. And I didn't quote that from Trey, essentially exactly how he said it, but it was said something along the lines of that. And like, I always, when an agent's being negative, that's what I got to kind of take myself back to. Like, okay, point out that they're being negative, point out that this isn't an enjoyable conversation for you, that it's not benefiting either of you.
Right.
And like, how can we change that? What do we need to implement to get the agent the results that they're looking for that is going to that's going to turn this ultimately into a positive conversation, right?
Absolutely. And that's huge. Shout out to Trey because, here's the thing is it's, we want to level with the agent. We want to try to understand where they're coming from. But like you said, we can't agree because I work the same leads that, John Smith's working and tell me that they're not working.
I mean, there's thousands of agents that are working them that they're working for. So it's like, you got to kind of take a step back and take some self-accountability. Like, did you dial the leads? Like, and I don't mean, did you dial them once? Like, you know what I mean? Did you door knock the leads? Like, what did it actually look like? Like, where could you have been better? And I think no matter what we're looking at, like self-accountability is always going to be the key. Like, what could I have changed? What could I have done better? And a lot of times it's easy to have like the poor me party, but like, that's not going to be beneficial for you or anyone that's involved in the situation long term. Like no matter what happened or is happening or whatever it may be, you always have to take a step back and say like, where could I have been better? What could I have changed?
Yeah, and I think that goes on both sides too, because it's like, I could sit here and I could say, oh, well, any agent that complains about a lead is wrong. It's not that they're wrong. It's just two different perspectives that I'm going to try to level with you, but I'm also not going to change my belief because of the result that you're not getting right at this exact second, right? And there's so many different examples of this, but I know that for me, it's really hard for me to level with an agent and be like, oh yeah, it's like the moment I start believing that the leads don't work is the moment like I go out of business and like, I start telling my whole team like the leads don't, like the leads work. Like let's not head fake ourselves.
Yeah.
There's thousands of agents across the whole entire country getting results, right? Helping a ton of families, like record-breaking numbers of families. So it's like,
yeah.
Right. So it's almost like going back to that though, of the essence of your phone rings, John Smith, and you're like, oh, it's like, okay, you and John, like Trey mentioned, you guys got to figure it out or not, really,
or
right?
Not, or you got to get a job, John.
Exactly, and that's kind of really what it comes down to. So with that being said, I mean, the accountability piece definitely comes into play for both like myself, and to anybody I'm working with or even just communicating with. Like if I tell the dry cleaner person that I'm going to be there at 1:00, like, does he really care? He's going to be there anyways. I mean, but I'm going to hold myself to be there at 1:00 because I told Tom, who is very nice and dry cleans my clothes all the time, that I'll be there at 1. Right? It's like small little things, but you know what? When I get there at 1 and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, and I get it's like, it's a good positive exchange.
Yeah.
Versus I get there at 1:30, I'm so sorry. And it's like, first of all, he doesn't care, right? Like that I'm so sorry, right? And second of all, it's like now I'm in this anxious state of mind for no reason. Like chill, bring yourself back down, go back to your disciplines, your habits. What are those? What were you getting done that day? And pivot back from there. And this even goes to like the phones, right? Like a big piece, and I'm sure you remember this, in 2020 was like, in 2020, like I was on the phone like Monday and Thursday. Like it wasn't a game. It's still not a game, by the way. But it's like 2020 literally seasoned me and showed me that there is power in momentum.
Oh yeah.
There is power in daily disciplines, because I went from helping 20 families a month and again, living my best life and chilling before 2020, to really just honing in on what I had to get done, like for the business.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't all about me anymore. It was about, hey dude, you're paving the way. People are watching what you're doing. And that's great that you've been in the industry at that point for 4 years, right? But that doesn't mean everybody else has. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that you can lead a team and not do anything all day, So kind of like just piggybacking off of what you were saying, it's like there's so many daily disciplines that go into this business, whether that's get to your first appointment on time. Mm-hmm. It sounds so stupid, but that's
you should never be late for your first appointment.
Yeah.
You're just starting your day off
exactly
like wrong. Yeah.
Yep. You're paving your way to, okay, now I'm in a rush and I'm 56 minutes away. Like, don't do that to yourself, right? Like, dial days, have your leads printed the night before.
Yeah.
If I could say, what is every agent's downfall at 8 a.m. on dial day? It's the printer. And I'm not even being funny. It's like, it's the printer. I would say 50% of agents who did not print their leads the night before are having an issue with the printer.
The insurance gods are watching, yeah.
Legit.
Purchase and print your leads the day before, always.
Yeah,
always.
And get on the phones at 8:00 or before, 7:30, 8:00, with intention. Like, if you only had, we were talking about this the other day, right? If you only have X amount of time to do something, you're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I have 30 minutes to clean my house because, there's going to be a dinner of 10 very important people that are going to be there, like my house is going to look like, turned out in that 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But if you give me 30 days to do it, it still might look turned out, but now I'm stressed out because
You've had to clean it like 4 times by then. Yeah.
Right. Like, and I'm freaking out and I'm like repositioning things. It's like, just do it. Like whatever that discipline is, hold yourself to it and just do it. You'll be so happy that you did it after. And there's also a stronger side to that too, right? And like you're lying if you're going to tell me you can't think of one day. Has there ever been a day that you woke up and maybe your habits and your daily disciplines or what you were planning to do that exact morning, it didn't pan out for whatever reason?
Yeah, of course.
Right? So it kind of like throws your drive off a little bit, right? And that's going to happen. But let it happen by, God's plan, so to say, versus you just simply weren't prepared.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference, right? Like, if you wake up and your car doesn't start, I mean, okay, that's probably more, like God's plan or maybe a little bit more out of your control, right? Versus if you wake up and now your printer isn't working, well, it probably wasn't working last night and you could have fixed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it sounds so silly, but it's like that one thing. And I promise if you're on here and tell me that you've never been upset with a printer, that you want to like put it like out the window, like, you're lying. Yeah. Because but it works you up to a rage that you can't be in on the phones. Mm-hmm. Like, why work yourself up about a printer before the phones?
Yeah, 100%.
And I know I've been on the printer for 5 minutes, but it's like I'll never get past it because I see it too often. Mm-hmm. It hurts so many people. Then they get on the phone, they're like, "Hi, Christina," and they're like, "I don't know why she hung up on me. She's rude." Like, well, she hung up on you because she doesn't even know why you were calling and because you have an awful attitude.
Yeah.
Right? So now your attitude isn't in line with your activity and you're going to probably hop off of, base, so to say. And I think that habits really ultimately, Christina, they lead to momentum, right? And I love John Maxwell. John Maxwell's great. But one of the best things I've learned from John Maxwell is the big mo, which is momentum. Momentum's going to work in your favor or it's going to work out of your favor, but it's always working somewhere. So you get to choose that part. And essentially the momentum that you now have, for example, with your morning routine, right? Like you're not confused when you wake up. You're not like, oh, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, not at all.
But in the beginning, right? Like you might have been.
Very intentional, yeah.
Right? But like you were in the beginning, you had to get used to it. Like you mentioned, right? The habits were new, right? You had to ease into it. It's the same thing. Like so momentum's now working in your favor. Mm-hmm. Before it was working against you, so it was like an uphill battle maybe to whatever that was, to get up at 5, to get to the gym by 5:30 or to whatever that was, right? It's like, but now you're so used to it, it's just in your day to day. It's like you're like, why? Like it ain't that deep. I woke up at 5, like I went to the gym, I drank my water, I journaled, meditated, I'm at the office, I'm in a good mood, I'm in a good headspace, right? But before, it might not have been looked that easy, but now momentum's on your side. Yeah. Whereas before, momentum, you had to build it up, right? And I think that there's so much power in that. So like to the agent out there that, maybe helped 30 families this month already, or maybe helped 30 families in a week or 50 families in a week or whatever it might be, don't take your foot off the gas. If anything, this is your time to propel, right?
For sure.
This is your time to go 100 on the highway, right? Like do it, because that's the time that you're going to see the biggest result because you're in the right headspace. Like you're like, I'm winning. Uh-huh. And when you're winning, you feel better about yourself by default. People can feel it. They're like, oh, wow. Like they look like he sounds happy. He seems like he isn't going to retire if he makes this sale, and he isn't going to quit if he doesn't, right? Yeah. Like that type of vibe is really important. So to the agents out there that, you're on the phones, you're doing all the right things, make that like your daily disciplines. What's one daily discipline that if you added in today, it might hurt the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month and a half, but it's going to give you momentum. Because momentum will propel you. But the other side of it is if you stopped waking up tomorrow at 5 in the morning and you started waking up at 8 and you're like, well, I'm just going to start 3 hours later, which I know that's not going to happen, but it's working against you. It's now negative momentum. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I think that there's just a lot of power in that. And when you have it in this business or in life, right? Like in anything, because we just talk personal, business, and pretty much everything in between, don't lose it, right? Like, don't take a week off. Like, I've never heard you call me like, oh, I'm going to take a week off and sleep in till 9.
Honestly.
Like when you take when you're doing anything.
It's weird when someone says like, oh, I'm building a business, or I want to build a business, and then they're on vacation. I'm like,
yeah, I mean that I got nothing.
That
is weird.
So weird.
That will also kill your momentum.
Yeah, that's definitely a strong momentum killer.
And it's a strong momentum killer right from the jump in this business. It's like the crazy thing about this business, and I always say this, is you can have the worst day, right? Like you can have like what you would, identify as the worst day in terms of business. And then you can wake up the following day and you can help 15 families.
Yeah, and have your best filled day ever, yeah.
And it's like, so what were we even talking about yesterday when we had a 45-minute conversation about how you're not sure if you can do this?
Yeah.
Ride the wave, do the work, implement the daily disciplines that need to be there and make them non-negotiable and have that momentum working in your favor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not against you. So I think that that's huge. And that's something that I learned like, wow, like, cause I remember in 2020, just to take it back real quick, like I was literally grinding. Like I didn't care what anyone was doing. Like I wasn't looking up to see what that one was doing, this one was doing. I didn't have the comparison complex going on.
Yeah, that's important.
I just knew like I was focused and honed on what I was doing. I knew I could control what was in front of me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when I was able to hone in and focus that way versus worrying about what's on this person's Instagram and that, like, who cares? Like, is that helping you? Probably not, especially if it's during your dial session, right? Mm-hmm. Like my dial session, like that's some intense thing in there. Like get out of the office unless you're dialing. Get out of my face unless it's to listen to what I'm saying or if you need help or advice or feedback. But don't interrupt my dial session because I'm losing my momentum.
Yeah.
Right? So it's also like, and real quick to piggyback off of that, if you get on the phones and you are in a bad mood because you didn't print your leads and the printer messed with you, and now you're mad at the world, right? And it's 8:30 and you talk to 5 people and they all are quote unquote so mean, or they don't like whatever we're going to, input, excuse,
these
right?
leads suck.
Right. Yeah. These, it's like, no, you suck. So get off the phone for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
find a way to readjust your mind because
Go take a walk.
Exactly. Whatever
Listen
it is
to something positive.
Decompress because your momentum is going in a negative momentum direction, right? Like you could be on the phones at 8:30 when your leads just printed finally. And now you're like, oh, okay, well now I'm rushed because I'm 30 minutes behind, right? And it's like, dude, like get off the phone if you're going to be mean to everybody because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. Make a daily discipline that you print your leads on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
That every Sunday and Wednesday, like it's happening. I don't care if it's at 2 a.m. Like I'm coming out of the field, it's 2 they need to be printed before, or I know I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have like literal anxiety. It will be the first thing I think about when I wake up versus, hey, everything's ready to go. Right. So using momentum in your favor, use your momentum to go uphill. Don't use your momentum to be like angry or going the wrong direction. Because that can happen too. So I guess keep riding that positive momentum up. And if you feel like you're not riding positive momentum, where are you losing it? Mm-hmm. Right?
I think a lot of it comes back to structure. Like just knowing what you need to accomplish for that day, knowing what the end goal is for that day is going to allow you to achieve that and get where you want to be. Even something just as simple as like picking out your outfit for the morning before, if you know in the morning that's going to be like a tedious process for you, if you will, like picking out what you're going to wear. So pick your outfit out the night before so you're ready to just go to the office. You know what I mean? Like just something like that, just being structured, planned out, knowing what you need to achieve and how you're going to achieve it is just what's going to allow you to get where you want to be.
100%.
I hope that was helpful. Tune in every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time for a new episode 5 next week. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for tuning in.